Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Engineering the Markets. It is Tuesday, and it is March 8th, 2022. My name is Jared, and welcome to another attempt for the market to potentially put in some fresh fear-based lows. Yesterday's session was a pretty convincing sell-off. And whenever you have these large range expansion type candles, it's always good to see, has the market breached or exceeded some of that expected move in regards to the weekly time frame. Now, we're not quite home yet, but in regards to the expected move for the week, the market is pricing in approximately 145 to 146 points. Yesterday, the range from high to low was just about 125 to 130, depending on sort of where you're measuring. And even if you're looking at something like ES futures, which overnight did have a secondary sell swing, the ES futures actually got to a low of about 41.38. So this market is advertising to us at the moment that there is still a lot of downside risk. The trend scenario in regards to whatever the market chooses on the day, that is your best case scenario for profitability as a trader. These are all conditions that have been true over the past about week and a half. And if you've been basically adhering to that mindset, you've been basically taking advantage of this volatility in the short term while understanding that the longer term perspective here and the idea of what's next in the market is still forming. We're still in a downtrend, very obviously. We're looking at the potential of a new low in the S&Ps. And as we've seen before, the NASDAQ has been one of the main drivers of overall weakness in this market. Once again, just a reminder here, the NASDAQ has entered into bear market territory. This is essentially just marking from high to current lows. This is something that has already been encountered with the absolute low of this particular correction. And the NASDAQ, once again, is in that territory of a downside move of 20% or more. So overall, the market structure here is that sell swings continue to be successful. Bears are comfortable in the market. They're not seeing the type of longer term trend changes or even attempts to break downtrend retracement lines having any success. And as we saw in yesterday's session, the market in the pre-market is quite deceptive as to the bias for the day. If you joined us yesterday morning, you'll note that the S&Ps actually came into previous session close, which happened to be Friday's close. Now, such a strong overall, just maybe 5 to 15 minute uptrend, very clean structure here. But as we've seen before, the gap up opens. The markets that present themselves strong in the morning are often one of the worst markets in regards to intraday long scenarios. What tends to be better for longs is actually the weakest downside moves, something like a gap down or an overextension. And those are what have provided some of these sessions where not only has the uptrend been very strong intraday, but it's exceeded a lot of normal ranges. Typically some of the largest intraday ranges we've ever seen since COVID. So this particular market is tricky for what I would say is the classically biased trader, which is the trader who's always looking for the long position. As an intraday trader, of course, we can kind of go both ways, but especially as a swing trader, you need to understand that a lot of market conditions right now and a lot of key underlyings simply are going to move with the S&Ps, are going to move with the NASDAQ. And even if they're showing some relative strength, the timing of some of these long bias positions has to be somewhat clear cut. Otherwise, your risk reward will not work. And usually these sell swings will sort of negate the momentum and even test or break down into your stop loss ranges. Obviously, being a bear so far has been more successful. It's been a little easier in regards to where to short the market. Obviously, downtrend retracement line is our guide. Don't need too much more information to show that shorts against this level have been what's working. And all in all, what we're looking for are trend changes. If you're looking for a bias in the market, you need to change the trend. The trend is down. It's a daily downtrend with threats to basically test the most recent lows. And what we're looking for is, can the bulls ever put up some sort of hourly, 4-hour, or ideally daily trend change signal, something that has enough strength and enough structure to it to provide the fuel to turn the market in the bullish favor. But as with everything, this is the market as a whole. It's impacting a lot of our normal risk on assets. So depending on how, give me 1 second here, didn't have the right resource up. Depending on how you're looking at allocation of a portfolio, you might not necessarily be too bad off in regards to your long exposure, but you have to be choosing the right sectors. And one thing I'll do is I'll bring over the new Bearable Trader trading terminal and just kind of showcase what's been working over the past week. We'll look at the sector ETFs in just a moment. Now, obviously, energy has been on everybody's watch list. This has been the sector in focus, and it's not surprising to see that it outperformed last week. Not only the overall markets, but it's also the lead sector in general. But second on the list is utilities. Now, if you've been inside of the Bearable Traders chat room, you know that some of our moderators have been looking at some exposure in utilities, at least in the short term. The idea is quite simple. The market is in a pure fear risk-off mode. If bonds, gold, commodities are all surging, and the market itself is relatively weak, with weakness coming from discretionaries, communications, and tech, 3 of the largest overall sectors, along with financials, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. That one actually had some fresh signals to the downside. This is a market where being long has to be smart. You can't necessarily take any sector, throw a dart at it, and say that you're going to be successful. You have to be in the right spots in that time frame. And what you're looking for is the turn. You're looking for is the market about to shift back into risk on mode. And in doing so, what that is going to look at like for the next round of performance, the next trend, or the next move for the longer term perspective. So all in all, when we look at these sector ETFs, we'll start off with the most bullish ones. Energy is very clear. It's very clean. Pullbacks to the 20 have been working. This is what has been in full force. And as a day trader, there's been plenty of candidate stocks in this particular sector, along with some low float runners that we saw yesterday. And we'll take a quick look at those near the end. XLU, fresh relative highs. We pull this out into full perspective. This is actually a fresh all-time high. So in a bull market, if you have a sector that's making a fresh all-time high, you know for a fact that there is buying going on in this particular sector, because it's not only countering the downtrend weakness and some of the hedging dynamics that occur, the outflow of the S&Ps, but the utilities themselves are actually being allocated towards. And it is a very, I would say, neutral to risk-off type of signal. People are looking for stability, and they're looking for high yield whenever the market is in such a decline. And you counter that with things like financials, which is not necessarily the weakest sector, but we got a fresh low. And what's so important about this low is as we pull it into the weekly, this is the first weekly downtrend the financials have seen since COVID. Now, this is a bit of an early signal in a lot of ways, but it has been advertised by the market in basically the past couple of months. If you look at the channel structure here, the financials were starting to break the channel. They weren't necessarily finding the same type of support near the lows, and the transition in the channel was getting weaker. So you have things like daily lower highs, which also equate to a weekly lower high, forming. And as these form, you're breaking down from what has been in place for essentially the past 6 months. Channel-based trading, still a bullish sector, but the channel tends to be one of distribution. You're not trending anymore. You're seeing lots of back and forth trade, usually derived by buy and sell swings in correlated assets. In this case, very heavily impacted by the interest rate fluctuations that we've seen. And now, as things are finally maturing, we're getting that fresh low. We're breaking things like Jan 24th low, very important price level for most of the market. And we're also breaking down from, in this case, the secondary low placed on February 24th. Essentially, this is a weekly breakdown. It's a weekly downtrend that's just confirmed. And this is part of the weakness of the market. You combine that with what's already breaking down overall, technology on the downswing, very similar to the NASDAQ and the S&Ps, structurally in that same sort of risk position, possible fresh lows. XLY, heavy downside activity on yesterday's session, mostly facilitated by stocks like Amazon. But if you look across the board, there was pain in a lot of different names. Nike had some very severe downside sell activity, and there are other key underlyings here that are actually accelerating to the downside. This is what fear selling looks like. This is something that the market has not experienced in quite a while, but we're in the throes of it. So you need to understand that this is what's driving order flow in the S&Ps. And when you look around, there's not really much reason to be a bull on these days when you start to identify what stocks are selling off and how powerful those sell-offs are. Also with Tesla, once again, kind of back testing this major trend line. We'll keep an eye on this development as it forms. This is a very early daily sort of rejection, still in sort of this channel structure, but once again, the channel upside is getting weaker. It's not able to go as high anymore, and it's starting to find rejection at lower prices. This is weakness starting to form. Now, that's pretty much everything in regards to the sector overview. You can look at, communication. This has been on the downswing for a while. Google, definitely a big risk factor for the market. If we lose Google, definitely expect more downside activity. Google's sort of on that edge as well. And more notably, it had earnings, which was a bullish reaction. It gave it all back, and it even came down to preliminary support. So these are warnings for anyone who's still stepping in long to the market and not really seeing a reason to see the long yet. If the stocks aren't moving up, the stocks that drive the market aren't moving up, market itself is not going to be bullish. Now, as I mentioned, though, there's always a bull in a bear market. If you're looking for long exposure, what's been working so far has been some of these defense companies waiting for the pullbacks. Obviously, these are getting a bit extended, but they've given your portfolio some exposure to the upside, and they allow you to sort of diversify and maybe negate some of your downside holdings while you wait for the market to turn. And what you can do is simply start profit taking once these are over in their run and start to look at where the money is moving next. It's not utilities anymore. It's not energy anymore. Maybe it goes back into materials. Materials was a prime candidate for a while, bit of a trading range. Isn't the most bullish thing in the world, but it's also not the most bearish. Want to be looking for these support areas to consider long entries and maybe gain some exposure if the market finds this sector in favor. So energy, defense contractors, and I guess last but not least, let's take a look at some new developments. Make sure I got my ticker right. No, not with a B. Okay, so newer development here. Commodities are on the rise. No matter where you look, you're going to find some opportunity. We've kind of played out wheat a little bit. This is also something that's been halted to the upside. So make sure I get the right one. This particular trade has been challenging. Even if you're in the futures market, they are halting this particular product to the upside. So we're getting limit up behavior. Very challenging environment to trade in, but it's been in play. Wheat has been on the rise. Fertilizer, certain companies are probably better for that exposure. A lot of people have been inside of the Mosaic trade. This is a pure sort of fertilizer play. Lots of exposure to the core components of fertilizer itself. But now we have sort of a new kid on the block. We're looking at nickel now. I had trouble finding a nickel futures product, so I'm just going to look at an ETF which tracks nickel futures. This particular product just went through a very rapid rise in price. A lot of people would say probably a bit of a short squeeze. The volatility expansion is unusual. This is obviously not normal behavior for a market, but all in all, this market was bidding higher or moving higher before this move. If we just ignore the most recent day, this was a stock or an ETF, quote unquote, that was already in sort of that overextended phase. And then we finally get this last push to the upside, this last up thrust. This is where pretty much anyone who's stepping in short early, trying to top tick these moves, typically doesn't have an account anymore. So as these markets do this wild behavior, understand that there might be some opportunity in the equity side and just kind of knowing some names for today's trade. What I've found so far are stocks like Vale. This one has a direct exposure to nickel. Let's go into fundamentals here. Global producer of iron ore pellets, steel making, and producer of nickel. So that's going to be important. The stock has already been on an upswing, so might be something to watch, maybe looking at where does the nickel market move over the next couple of days. But as we've seen, stocks that are on the upswing can actually get more violent and more explosive to the upside. What can drive this behavior is the option market. We talked about it with Oxy yesterday. The concepts are the same. The market as a whole was pricing in about $1.30 for the week. I'd have to back this up. Maybe it was a little bit wider at the beginning of the week. But what I'm showing here is that people are starting to get speculative in this company. People are starting to buy calls. These calls are actually starting to concentrate on the short dated expiration. So maybe today is not the day. Maybe the next couple days is not quite the most volatile trade. But watch this particular stock. Keep it on your secondary, because if this market continues to be violent and people are starting to price that into these companies, this is a stock that could have that impact. And the direction of that impact is what we're going to be looking for. The technicals will give us a clue, but obviously this is a bullish candidate in a marketplace that has gone into parabolic mode. There are also other candidates like Rio, BPG, no. BGP. Lost my name. I'll just say Rio. I lost one of my tickers here. Thought I could remember three tickers and I couldn't. A lot of other names that I've found this morning do not have the same option market as Vale. Thank you. BHP. So BHP and Rio, for example, they have nickel exposure. They're also ADRs. Vale is an ADR as well. It just has a bit more participation, and you'll find that the volume profile is a little better. So, obviously trade with caution. This is sort of a new development in the market. But as we've seen, we want to trade the best of the best. We want to trade what's moving. We want to trade gold in certain ways. We want to find opportunities to buy pullbacks in expectation that this trend might continue. And obviously, gold is hitting prices it hasn't seen since mid-2020. Are we looking at a possible fresh all-time high in gold? And how far can this move go? Silver is starting to perk up as well. Gold is obviously leading. Silver had the signals around the 200, previous rejection points. Now it's turned into support. It's on the upswing. We talked about wheat. And then last but not least, I guess we have about 10 minutes left. There's been a lot of lower float and high momentum stocks that have been in play. Some of these stocks are way beyond expectation and probably price movement that's going to essentially set a multi-month or year top for these stocks whenever this craze and this mania finally ends. But they've been in play on the intraday. And there's obviously going to be a leader. I would argue that Indo has been the leader over the past couple of weeks, maybe the past week or so, especially with these clearer breakouts. This is energy-related play. Yesterday, we saw more stocks like this start to perform. IMPP became sort of that next round of mania and craze, even had an early daily signal the day prior. We saw stocks like HUSA. These are stocks that are obviously, you need a certain style, you need a certain strategy to trade these intraday. But for the most part, you can be wrong in a lot of ways on your entry. And as long as you have good risk management, as long as you protect your position, you are looking at stocks that are moving 100 to 200%. There are opportunities, but you trade them just like other trades. You define risk ahead of time, and you enter the right position with the right signals. I believe we also have one that's going to be on the scanners this morning, MARPS. And simply just kind of observing what's been working in this market. It doesn't really make sense, in my opinion, to think anything else in the market has been long. Where are you going to go for long exposure? You're going to go to the semiconductors. They're making fresh lows. AMD is down. It's actually almost threatening another bear flag setup. NVIDIA, same thing. These are all declining stocks with the rest of the market. You have to trade the trend that's in front of you. And obviously look for these days where the counterplay is there, but the short is what's working right now. The short is what's been easier. It's been more effective. And obviously it has the right risk parameters until the market volatility comes off. And, we've looked at some of the other sectors already. So I guess last but not least, I've said that, 3 times this morning, the VIX. VIX is still very elevated. Volatility futures are way in backwardation at this point. It's to the point where we're seeing something like $2 to $3 skews at times. So April and May, looking at about $1.50. If I'm looking at the active contract, it only has about 7 days. Volume is probably starting to roll, but it's still reflective of how wide the spread is. 34.58 for March, 32.65 for April. So imagine if you're holding active contracts and you're having to roll into a future series, which is priced lower. you're losing money. And what that looks like is a volatility term structure, which is uptrending, or in this case, in backwardation for the actual, uh, I guess, like curve of the product. So we've looked at this a few times. I'll probably just kind of reiterate it here. Nope. What am I doing? Chart, product depth, VIX, curve here, backwardation. It looks like essentially your short term or your closer to expiration contracts are priced higher. So anytime you have to do a roll operation in this market, you're basically seeing the overall active contract appreciate. It looks like it's uptrending. That's more for the chart perspective, but the force behind that is the term structure. So I guess overall, this market is giving opportunity for those who are looking. Be on your guard. This market is getting a little crazy in regards to what is in play. These are not your typical stocks. They're not your ABCD style, very simple to sort of interpret and allocate. Their momentum. It's a lot of euphoria, a lot of, I guess, fear and emotion in everything else that is selling. And when this market decides to flip, if that comes violently in regards to news or just some overall effect, the violence of that flip will also be tradable, and we'll have to give it the respect it deserves. We've been in this volatility box in the S&Ps for a while as well. This box right here, this area of the market where people tend to just define open interest risk. They're building up positional risk. It's directional in nature, but it has a lot of gamma exposure. When you break outside of these ranges, and in this case, we broke bearish, understand that there's a lot of just pent up energy in the market. Whether it's bullish or bearish doesn't really matter. What has to happen when you build up that type of energy is it has to unwind. And usually what's going to occur is the market makers who are carrying a lot of that gamma related risk, and obviously they're also looking at short volatility risk with a volatility product that's on the rise. They're the ones causing some of these violent swings. And in a lot of ways, this intraday play is what forces some of the trend behavior that we see. The S&P is down, not just on sell swings, but no 5-minute trend changes. Clear, non-directional bullish behavior, even flat trade swings lower. So you want to stay aware of this and just protect yourself. Even if you're a long bias trader, you can find those moments, those reversal, or typically some of these sort of aggressive longs. But if they don't work, understand that the downside is still very strong. And you're going to be taking a lot of downside pain if you decide to hold. So be safe, trade well, understand where the bias is in the market. And we'll look at this a bit more tomorrow, but we'll start to talk a little bit more about strategy once again, just kind of redefining some of these option strategies to use and starting to look at how to take advantage of what's been occurring so far. So with all that said, my name is Jared. Stay tuned for pre-market prep, and we'll talk more tomorrow.
Everyone, good morning. Welcome to Pre-Market Prep. I hope you guys are having an amazing morning. Hope you had a great day yesterday. Good morning, Peter. How are you doing today, my friend?
Good morning, Carlos. I am great. Hopefully, I'm here properly today, not cutting anybody off like I did
Yeah, that
yesterday.
was good. I
How
look
are you?
over, Jarvis on. Next thing you know, I look over Peter's on. I'm like, what's happening? And Jarvis back on. I'm like, okay, nice.
That was all
All
my
good.
fault. All my fault. So,
All good, all good. I'm good today, guys. Let's get into this market, which has been incredibly interesting, as you guys know. Hopping over here to BBY, which was heavily in play yesterday. Just look at the action pre-market. We all know the story here, going from 16, squeezing all the way to 35, 35.05. There you see the change in direction right before the market opened. Then the entire day was a complete short. I mean, this thing did not
oh.
give you a bounce anywhere. If you're looking for it, you had a rough time. That's for sure.
BBBY to me was just quickly. It was a really great example of how the emotions can flip on you in trading in a heartbeat. So I was short right in the very first minute, like right at 9:30 after the bell. I took a short
Hmm.
at 29.50, and I ended up getting about $4 on the move, and thought, that's great. It started to pull back, and I thought, well, it's probably going to go back up. So I got out of my trade just to watch it drop another $6 all the way to the low day, and I'm like, what? Where were my patients? Why didn't I just hold on? I had a great trade. I got nothing to
Yeah,
complain about.
yeah.
You know how you go from the that was awesome to what the
Eh,
heck?
that was an trade. That's okay.
Exactly.
I know
Uh,
what you mean, my friend. This is why it's so important at times. It's hard to be patient to catch these moves, especially when you're coming off some days where things are doing this, right? That sideways action. When things are doing that, it's hard to get into a trade where you get in here, have a great short, and then your immediate reaction is to cut here, get some profits. You know what's going to happen next,
right.
and then you get this, right? Sometimes you might want to wait at times for let the stock give you a reason to get out of the trade, right? Let it wait for it to give you a reason, a firm one, and leave some on it, and that can help a little bit. But yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. We can speak on it. We could have a whole webinar on this, and we know how difficult that is to actually do. Here is Oxy, guys. Oxy was a short right from the beginning, right from the pre-market, and that carried on right into the market open as well. You had a nice little drop here. You got a very aggressive pullback. Don't know what this was, but you had a pullback all the way from what 56 to 58. That's a 5 minute candle, man. So that's very aggressive there. That would unfortunately have stopped you out of the move if you were short here. And then it comes on back and continues on its way, hits where it left off and continues then even more. So a very strange action there on Oxy. I'm sure that candle hurt a lot of people that would have had an amazing short on this one if they not did not get back in. We know the airlines are taking a hit. All the travel companies are not doing well, especially with all the news going on, gas prices going up, oil, all that good stuff. Well, not good stuff, but all that nasty stuff. And you can see here, United just drops off the face of the earth, never looks up. You got a little pullback here to the 20, never breaks the 9 after that again into like right here, maybe a little test of the 20, but continues on this downtrend. I like United. This is the one I was watching very closely. You can also could have looked at American Airlines. Same situation here. I think United just moves a little bit cleaner for me.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you catch United? Because you did mention it in the show yesterday morning.
I did not, but what I did catch was BBBY, so I'm thankful for that. I tried it for a long. I tried it for a long. Think, okay, it's getting ready to reverse. I actually went in with Andrew in this area, like you know what, this is a good down move. This thing is up, it's strong, and it nevertheless got stopped out very quickly. And luckily, I was able to change, directions here. I'm like, okay, this thing is
Okay.
gonna be short because sometimes you get stuck on that. It's far enough already. It's gonna come back. It's far enough. It's gonna come back, and it never does, right? So luckily, I was able to change directions in here. And I will even tell you what I traded yesterday. I know Norm will not be happy about this. Indo.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I took 100 shares on Indo. Not a big size, 100 shares, but man, this thing made the day yesterday. It was ugly. It was nasty, but it was not pretty. But I took a very, I took such a small number of shares. I was betting on the move and the squeeze rather than the actual play. That was my gambling trade, hopefully for the year. we'll see. All right, guys, and here's Apple. Apple also again just showing a little bit of weakness. The pullback was a little bit better than most. It got right to the VWAP up a little bit higher, but the entire trend for the day was short, as you can see here. NIO as well had a nice pop. Actually, NIO and Baba, we didn't talk about these two. We'll do this quickly. Were the only ones that actually took off here. Right at the market open, they really had a nice pop there. There's NIO, then couldn't hold on to that, obviously, getting pulled down there. And Baba, same situation. Look at this pop you got right at the open, then cannot hold that, and then comes right back down. So very interesting start to their morning yesterday. But then they all end up following suit, short for the day for the most part. All right, looking at our gappers list this morning, we have a couple of things in the green, in the red. Similar story we've been watching, guys, for a couple of weeks now, right? Stocks are doing well in this type of market conditions, are in the green. Similar tickers in here, and then the ones that are not doing so well are going to be in the red here. And some of these tickers do not look great. Doesn't look like a huge, amazing list right now, but we've seen this type of list before. Things can get better pretty quickly. Peter, let me get you to the SPY. Any announcements overall for the overall market? I know the announcements here might not be up to date because Norm usually updates that. And by the way, for those that do not know, Norm is on vacation and Peter is covering for Norm today.
That's right. So those elements on the economic calendar there are not accurate. We only have a couple of items today. We are expecting announcement on the foreign trade deficit. I haven't seen it yet, but it should be coming out any minute. And then wholesale inventories, neither of which tend to move the market, but be interesting to watch, especially in this market conditions. Talking about the market overall, obviously we can see that we're in a general downtrend, but this is different than sort of what we've seen in the past. Overall volume has been relatively flat on the markets, flat to even low on the overall markets, as I'm seeing a lot of money sit on the sidelines and wait. That's because this is a downturn born of uncertainty and, of course, of our global conflict that's happening. Oil is the big story, which is all over the place. Carlos already mentioned INDO and Oxy, but there's other ones like MAR, what is it, MARPS, MARPS, and IMPP. These are low float oil stocks that we've never heard of before, unless you were sort of in that sector, that are moving all over the place. They are up, they are down, and it's just because there's so much uncertainty out there, like you don't know what's going to happen. So if you're trading them, like Carlos did yesterday, just be careful. There is opportunity on them, no question, but you've got to be very careful because they can move against you suddenly if you're not expecting it. So I expect it to be another relatively quiet day. I mean, one of the things that I watch, as many of you know, are the IPOs, and that uncertainty is showing itself heavily in the IPO space. We have not had a new IPO for 4 days now, and that's very unusual. I don't see any on the slate for this week at all. So everything's been pulled back. Nobody wants to sort of release a new offering right now. It looks like they're all just waiting to see what happens and waiting for slightly calmer times in which they can sort of re-engage on their activities. So there is opportunity, but just be careful. Let's see what we get. Let's take a look at the gappers and see if we can find the diamonds in the rough that are sitting out there amongst all the coal.
Absolutely. Answer a quick question. Someone is asking, is there a way to see closed captions when we speak? And you can do that on YouTube. You cannot do that in our chat room. I believe you cannot at the moment. We will look into that though. So thank you for that. But I know on YouTube, you can turn on the feature and you should be able to see closed captioning on YouTube. If you're on YouTube and you cannot see it, let us know. That means I have to change a quick setting on the YouTube menu there, and we'll do that. We'll do that immediately for you. And actually, if that person doesn't have audio, somebody can type that over to them. I just thought about that. That'd be great. Okay.
It currently says closed captioning is unavailable on our feed there, Carlos. So.
Oh, it does. Okay. We'll get working on that. All right, guys. Okay. Let's take a look here on our gappers list. Let's start with MARPS at the moment. So if you can see here, guys, these stocks have been, again, as you mentioned, Peter, just taking off here. This is another one up 85% today. They're just insane. We got a couple of these here. We have this one. We have Indo. Is Indo doing anything crazy today? Indo right here is up 3% after a massive run yesterday and the day before. So there are a couple on here that you got to be careful with. Let's remove or clean up our watch list from yesterday. Let's see
Well,
here.
Carlos is doing that. Yeah, I mentioned MARPS. It's the second day that it's on here. I'd never heard of it before yesterday. In fact, they even had to expand the gappers list so that it would show because the symbol is bigger than most. But yeah, like it looks a little challenging. I put it on my list here just to keep an eye on it to see what it might look like. I'm not sure this is one I'm going to trade. Frankly, just looking at it, it looks choppy, and we'll see what happens once the open hits. But the spread is pretty high for a $20 stock to have a 20 to 50 cent spread. That's really high.
Yeah, it is. All right, so guys, for the closed captions, it looks like we'll have to do it tomorrow because I need to restart everything for the setting to take effect. So it won't be effective on this video, but it should be effective next one tomorrow. So, all right, guys, let's get to it. So yeah, this is again, and the spread on these are not great. They're all over the place. Use G here, another one here, lower flow, lower price, also low flow at 3.2 million. This thing is pushing higher here, got some good volume to it, so definitely in play. Again, guys, just be very careful. These things are active. You can definitely catch a move on them. Just be very careful. A couple also in here, VTNR, again, all just not looking great here. 195,000. A lot of these are just they're hard to put on our main list. I'll tell you that much. Here's DB. They're up 8.2. I'm not a big fan of this stock, guys. Again, just the way I trade. I know others have done very well with this one. It's difficult for me to trade this one with the way it moves. So I'm going to skip on that one. So far, nothing I like to see on my list this morning. GBR. Sitting on the American Stock Exchange, you guys know how I feel about that. I mean, I have a strong bias that these stocks just don't trade, and you shouldn't. I mean, that's not a good thing, but they just don't trade well. Their price action is funky. I just stay away from them. MXC, and it's just be careful. I stay away from them. Doesn't mean you have to, right? You can trade whatever you like, but I'm just telling you what I'm doing as we're preparing here. MXC this morning, this one is up 7.6, 100,000, also sitting on the American Stock Exchange, another energy company. I think there's better energy companies that you can trade aside of this one. And you could look at other ones that we have mentioned already in this show. Heading down to
So,
AR.
as we're seeing here, the list is being dominated by these tickers we wouldn't normally trade, right? These are all oil companies, like, sort of smaller oil GBR, MXC, that are all sort of just suddenly jumping up because there's nowhere else for money to go. But like we said, it's sort of dominating the news cycle right now. So be very careful.
Yep, absolutely. The swings are aggressive. The pullbacks are insane. Now, towards the bottom, getting below the 4.5, things are gapping up between 4.5 and looks like 2% or so. You are seeing some better names that we are used to trading. Fuel Cell is on here. They're up 4.1. Not a great pre-market activity. They got a little bit of volume, 328. I know this is a favorite for most. I'm going to add it on here, Fuel Cell. We'll put that on the secondary list for now. DKS, this is Dick's Sporting Goods. They're up 4.1. Horrible pre-market activity, but that's usually okay. Peter, is there anything happening with these guys? See a strong swing yesterday towards the downside, now gapping up a little bit.
Yep. Yep, they did have earnings this morning, so it looks like they beat their numbers, which is why we're seeing a little bit of a gap up. But like you point out, the pre-market action is pretty poor in this. It usually, sort of being a nice New York Stock Exchange stock, it tends to only sort of get its traction once the opening bell rings.
Yep. So you definitely got to wait for the volume to kick in on this. So I'm going to add it on here because they did have earnings, and earnings have been actually really good this season here. This is TS, also another foreign company. I don't really like to trade this one. I'm going to keep it off my list. Here's Plug this morning. What we got going on with them? Up 3.4. Not a great daily, not a great pre-market activity. Their volume has seemed to drop off. I'm not sure. It's just they don't seem to be trading as clean as they were in the past when we used to have this in our list more often than not, right? We'll see. Put it on here, Plug. We'll see what's going on there. AG, it's a gold, the silver ticker here. I don't usually keep this on deck, but you can watch that as well. Mara, what is going on with Bitcoin? So Mara is up 3% this morning, 105,000 shares traded. So we got some good, not good, but decent pop up here of 3%. The daily looks interesting, but outside of that, I'm just, again, I've been harsh on this stock. I got to say that. Putting it on the list, I have, and I know I missed a couple of good days because of it. So that's something, it's not great. But I'm just not sure. We'll put it on the secondary list for now. We'll definitely come back to it. And here is
Yeah.
Indo, which by the way, it's just insane, guys. I mean, just with 100 shares, you had to still keep your eyes glued to the stock because it can move so aggressively. So here it is. Today already at 309. Also, you can tell this one is sitting on the American Stock Exchange, which are very funky. A lot of these seem to be sitting on this American Stock Exchange. This one here, we'll add it to the list. It's just been one that's been very, very wild, guys. $20 to 45, 45 to 85 yesterday, and today already hanging out at 65, slightly above the previous day close. So just we can't stress enough, as Peter mentioned before, how cautious you need to be with these. All right, we'll stop here. Actually, there's one that we all like, including myself, Oxy. Oxy's one that's on here, up 2.5. They're on the cleaner side of things, right? When it comes to trading. Peter, I don't know if you have a favorite one that you like to watch, but Oxy for me, it's one that
Oh, definitely Oxy. Yeah.
yeah, I like to keep on the list, right? Um, let's see what's gapping down this morning. And Peter, as you know, if you have any news, you can always cut me off. No issues. And then gapping down this morning, we have SB. Again, all of these mining type oil companies. So a lot of them being foreign, like this one here, SBSW doesn't trade very well. BBBY. This is going to be fun today. BBBY, definitely on our list. Just insane stuff yesterday. Let's see where it takes us today. So definitely on the list. BHP, another oil. Is this oil? I think believe so. Also foreign. Again, just really all over the place this morning. I'm not a huge fan of it. Although given the situation where we are in now, so Jairus was mentioning and Peter mentioned in the earlier, you know, these stocks can actually put in a decent trading day today where they normally wouldn't, just because the overall situation. So you just got to keep a close eye on it. Pick a few that look decent and keep a close eye on this. MNDT. I know there was some news on this. I can't remember now. It was with Google. Yes, I'm looking at my daily oracle here. So Google's acquiring this. So they are gapping up 3.1. But they're not looking great though for intraday trades. I'm not liking what I'm seeing here. You see great volume, a lot of it moving sideways on a very tight range. That could change at the market open, but I'm not sure. Billy.
Yeah, it's an all cash deal at $23 a share. So that's where you can usually expect it to just settle, right? So
yeah, you're seeing that already. Again, you might not get a whole lot of action there. Billy, this morning, this was a great trade a couple of days ago. We took amazing advantage of this. They give you a good continuation the following days. Today's at an area where you are extended on the daily after losing some very good support here. How low can this go? I do like Billy, so I am going to add it to the list. I find that I trade this stock very well for some reason, so I'm definitely putting them on this morning, down 2.1. Pre-market activity usually looks like this, where it's a little bit quiet or thin. That's going to change at the market open. If you are going to get volume, it can be a decent one. BTU normally is a crappy stock. I keep it off the list. Yesterday, of course, just a huge drop here. It's just overall energy play here as well. But I think there's better tickers out there that you can watch. All right, excellent. Our gap up list took a break for the moment. But Peter, what do you like on your end so far?
a couple of other things worth watching. Woof, WOOF, has had earnings today, so it doesn't look good pre-market at all, but I just like their ticker, so maybe I'll keep an eye on it just because. Baba is another one that I might keep an eye on. They a little late to the party. They had an announcement that they are now working on some sort of electric vehicle using SAIC's factory in Shanghai. So who knows, that may give Bubba a little jump, but it's not good timing for that type of announcement.
Yeah.
The semiconductors have been down over the last few days. You've probably noticed that if you're one that watches NVIDIA or AMD. Obviously, I'm trading AMD almost every day. I am absolutely going to be watching it here because it looks like it's threatening at that $100 mark again. So we'll see what happens with it today, but I'm going to be keeping a close eye on AMD as always. And then Apple. No real big news happening on Apple although they do have some sort of like peak performance spring event that's scheduled for midday today. I don't quite know what that's going to do to the stock, but it might be worth keeping an eye on Apple.
Yeah, and during these market conditions, I'm not sure how that's going to help. There's bigger stuff going on, obviously, like you mentioned with Baba, right? That's great, but I would have
Yeah.
definitely waited for things to settle down to kind of get an impactful movement on that. That can be overshadowed by a lot that's going on with the overall market and the world. Period. Let's take it to the
The other
chat
one
room,
I'll
guys.
mention,
Yep, go ahead.
sorry, just for news, Tesla, they did have some news that I found that they've got a 4 week delay on the release of their Model 3 in China. So usually production delays like that have an impact on a stock. Tesla doesn't always act the way you would expect. So it could shrug off that news, especially being that it's only the Chinese release of their vehicles. But Tesla can be a good mover. I honestly haven't liked it the last little while. I just find it tough to read. But
Yeah.
if you do like it, because I know a lot of people do trade it, then at least know there is some news on it.
Yeah, we'll add it here to our secondary list as well. And I feel the same way about Tesla. It can be difficult to read at times. All right, let's head to our chat room this morning, starting with Apple. Yeah, we have on deck. We're aware of the event there. Lucid took off yesterday morning after having a poor pre-market action. Let's see, Joel, what we got here for Lucid. Lucid here. What do we have going on? It looks pretty flat at the moment, just around the previous day close as of right now. Let's see what it did yesterday. I did not look at it yesterday. So yeah, you had a nice little pop here. Yeah, this took off nicely yesterday and then kind of came back down here. But you know what? NEO had similar action yesterday. So I don't know what made this pop happen. And then obviously the overall market took over and showed us some gravity there. But for the most part, I don't know what caused that spike on the EVs yesterday. But nevertheless, I think they're in a tough spot right now. They're kind of just moving sideways at the moment. I think they can be interesting because the Lucid can be very explosive. So I'll put them on a secondary, but I don't think they're on a main list yet.
No, it is surprising, right? Because you think this would be the time for them to take advantage of these, massively escalating oil prices to say it's time
Right.
to go electric. But
Yep.
unfortunately, the news cycle seems to be all about them, their inability to deliver and factory delays. So,
Yeah. Yep.
that's a problem.
Um,
In the room, somebody was mentioning USWS, which low float wouldn't normally mention it, but again, it's an oil stock, a US based oil stock. And it is up over 100% with almost 8 million shares traded so far. So if you like the movers, this may be today's big oil mover. So
yeah, we'll add that here to the list, guys. Yeah, it's very active this morning, up 111 and climbing. So we'll put that on there as well. All right, let's see what we got going on here. We have American Airlines. What do I think about American Airlines? So a couple of people throwing out that one. Yeah, I think these travel companies are great. Actually, we should make some space for them. United Airlines yesterday was amazing. I do like that one. Unfortunately, I didn't trade it, but both of these are going to be in play today. They're getting hit, obviously, with everything going on. Oil prices, rising. It's not great for airlines. Their margin are so thin. When they get hit with things like that affect their bottom line, they're gonna suffer, and you're seeing that here with United and American Airlines. So I think they both look good. American Airlines 1.6 million, pretty much flat right now. But look at this drop we got here early on, and just the sheer volume we're getting there. Yeah, I think this is good. We might move like a Billy down today for one of these airlines. Absolutely, I think we need to watch at least one of them. So good stuff there. Triple H and Shanman. Heading down, Go ETF. I don't usually look at those, but you could definitely put that on a list. Peter mentioned USWS. That's good. Jason, do not get me started. So Jason is saying that Apple is announcing Lightning Connector 2.0. Oh man, damn you, Apple.
Oh, now you got him going. All right,
Don't get, there's a couple of things. I'm a patient guy. I'm a chill guy. I could care less. Nothing bothers me. But stupidity to that level from those smart people. I mean, they're so smart, but the stupidity to that level. Let's get back to the show. Next ticker. All right, here we go. CCL. CCL is another travel company that also could be in play. Yeah, he had taken a hit. CCL as well. I mean, United, American Airlines, United. All are good. I'll put CCL on here just in case anyone's watching, they don't miss it. And don't worry, guys, we'll fine tune this list pretty good this morning. All right, we are all set. Rio, we talked about Rio earlier today. Jared, I believe, was talking about Rio, but I walked away to get the kids ready for school at that time. But Rio this morning, this is what, an oil company, I believe. Is it oil energy?
they're a mining company, but they've got a little bit of everything. So sort of like
Okay.
BHP Billiton. BHP Billiton and Rio tend to dabble in
Yeah.
everything. So.
Okay, so be careful with this one, guys. Obviously, foreign company. It looks foreign at least. A lot of these are based where they're located and where they do business. But again, there's so many of these in play. You could really pick any one you want. I'm gonna stick to Oxy more on that side. I think Oxy is a little bit cleaner. But there's some other ones here that you can choose from that is being affected by this overall news as we spoke about. All right, over on YouTube, guys. I know we don't have a lot of space here, but let's see what you guys have this morning. We're looking at Uber. Uber had earnings already, and they have not today, but it was a couple of days ago, I believe. And it was on the 9th. Yes, a couple. Actually, no, this was last month. So what they had news a couple of days ago. Might have been something else. It was this gap down here. It's a big gap down. They recovered nicely. It wasn't earnings then. It was something else. But giving it all back at the moment, you can see here the daily looks interesting. I'm just concerned with how they're going to trade market open. I just think they're one of these tickers that can be a little bit choppy at times for intraday trading. So that's the only reason why I might keep it off the list. And we have stuff like American Airlines, which I'm gonna move up to my main list. AMD, which is looking pretty good actually today. Great volume. Oxy, these are looking slightly better than Uber this morning. PED going to go. Let's see, where's it going? Yeah, we're getting, what is this one? Another oil company as well, or no? But this one, yeah, this one's pushing higher here, up 17%, sitting on the American Stock Exchange, and the float on this is 26 million. So not a low flow stock, but pretty lowish, we will say. Type of company this is, oil company. Yes, so again, another oil company, guys. We can put in an entire list of probably 50 oil companies that are in play today. So pick your best one there. All right, we have ENSV, another one here as well. Yeah, I'm gonna skip through those pretty fast because you guys know kind of this is the overall theme with those. Bank of America this morning, they are pretty much flat. I don't see they're really in play. I mean, they've just been on the daily, they've been getting slammed, obviously. We'll have to wait for the market open to see how this is going to react and how the financial sector is going to be. I'm not sure that there's any news individual to Bank of America. No, I'm not seeing anything on Bank of America individually. So I'll just watch that for the market open if you do want to keep an eye on that. Also, if you notice our list, there's a lot on here. What's Husa here? Up 22%. There's a lot here that is duplicated, right? So what I mean by that, for example, AMD and Apple, you can watch one of these. You have American and United, you can watch one of these. You have Tesla. Do we have Neo on here? No, we do not. But you can fine tune things. Oh yeah, we have Lucid. You can watch one of these, and at least you kind of get a feel for the different sectors that are in the market with some good tickers that can do very well. And if one is not doing what you want, you can look at the secondary one to see if that was moving nicely. So, Nvidia, I looked at Nvidia earlier when Peter was doing his spy stuff, market talk, and I didn't see anything too great as much as I like AMD. If you look at AMD, it looks much better, even on the daily as well. Same thing with Apple. I like these two a lot better than Nvidia this morning. So, all right, guys, let's stop here. Let's go over to our community events and announcement for this week. Let's get that over here, and then we'll come back and fine tune this list. There's a lot there that we can take off because it looks like as we started going with the show, things started to get a little bit better towards the end there.
All right. So this week we have our usual slate of activity. So starting tonight with our technology series, we've got Kyle presenting at 8 o'clock on sort of a Q&A on DAS Trader Pro. It's a great opportunity to get some questions answered. There have been at least a couple of new releases in the last few months, which have brought some new features. So Kyle's usually all on top of that. We'll sort of know how to give you some advice on it, or if you just want help with general configuration or stuff that's always confused you. DAS is a fantastic tool, but it's been developed over the course of decades, and it can be a little confusing sometimes to find the functions you're looking for. So join them at 8 o'clock if you want to get some questions answered or just learn something new. Next week, we will have Thor, who's going to be doing lesson number 3 of his tape reading series. So that will be at 8 o'clock on the 15th of March. Hopefully, you'll join us then. And then on Wednesdays, whoa, did I miss something in that? No. What's going on here?
I went back. Did you miss something? I don't think you did.
Yeah, I think I went to the wrong thing because the Kyle was last night. Today is Tuesday.
Yeah, today's
All right.
Tuesday, so you got this today.
Yeah, which means that it's actually Mike tonight, not Kyle. That's my mistake. It's early. Apparently, I'm not quite awake. So tonight we have Mike. How to determine when to move your stop to break even. Oh, this is a new one. So this sounds like a new webinar because I don't recognize the title. That'll be fantastic. Be interesting to see how he presents that. That'll be at 8 o'clock tonight. Once again in the webinar room for our elite members, and then we go to Thor next week. Okay, now we can go to Wednesday, which means that we have psychology happening on Wednesdays, and tomorrow on the 9th, it's always an earlier time when Kreda is presenting, and she will be presenting tomorrow night, so at 5 p.m. The next element of her Mental Edge series, how to identify the negative thinking that causes losing trades. So we all know that we're guilty of that. It's good to sort of hear Kreda give you some very practical advice at how you can manage that. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that early time tomorrow night. And then next week, it'll once again be Mike on the 16th at 8 o'clock with part 2 of his probability series on how to actually employ or use your Tradebook Edge. On Thursday, it's always about mentorship. And hopefully, Andrew will be in a place with good internet connection so he can do his 11 a.m. mentorship for elite members. If not, we will have a backfill for him, but there will definitely be mentorship next Thursday at 11 o'clock. And then Ed is always reliable and always here. Thursday, right after the market close. That'll be at 4:30, right? Join Ed to get his mentorship. He has got a very unique and different style that is so surprisingly simple yet effective. But like most things that are simple in concept, it doesn't mean it's easy to implement. So hopefully you'll join Ed to get insight as to how he does it. And then Thursday night, it's always the Thor's mentorship at 8 p.m. If you haven't already, go check out the stock trading simulator. You can sort of backtest any strategy you want on any stock. You can put a couple up side by side. Heck, open up 5 windows. You can do 10 at the same time. And sort of see how stocks move. So it's a great free tool. You don't have to pay now for simulator tool. We're upgrading and enhancing it all the time. So sign up for that simulator. We promise you we won't spam you with marketing or anything. It's just a sign up to make sure that we don't get bots in there. But sign up for Stock Trading Simulator and you can use it as much as you want for free. If you want to join us in the room, we're always eager for new members. If you're a new member, by the way, say hi. I haven't been on the mic to ask for a while. But if you wanted to just do a test drive and see what it's like, see what what is the chat room actually like? Will it help my trading? Join for just a 1-week trial. Use the code premarket24 to get a $24 discounted 1-week trial. Once it ends, we won't require you to cancel, to stop billing. You won't be billed anything else. We promise you. It's up to you as to whether you wanted to continue. We're confident that we've got a community that is, it really helps if that's something that you're interested in. So hopefully you will join us here. And hello, Lenny. Well, since November, you would still feel new. I mean, heck, you're still within the first 6 months, right? So it's always new. And we believe that our Valentine's Day sale discount code is still on. I know you guys talked about this yesterday, and as far as we know, it is still active. So go give it a shot. Use the code LOVERS50. You get 50% off. This is the annual membership, though, so you got to sign up for that. If you try it and you don't get the discount, tell you what, email me, and we'll see what we can do to hook you up. So, that will be good if you wanted to join. So.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. Let's get to it, guys. Looking here at our list, just looking through, I'm going to take off some stuff that is kind of a little bit duplicate. So, for example, AMD and Apple, I'm really going to watch AMD instead. Just to fine tune my list a little bit here because I want to make space for the airlines, especially with the way things are going. Now, Apple is still a good one. We can keep it on our secondary list with no problem. and I'm going to move up. Both of these are great, guys. United or American Airlines, they're both really, really good. I'm going to move up. American Airlines has the volume today, which they always do, but they're looking rather clean this morning. So we'll get rid of that. We'll keep United as a secondary if we like, but I'm going to remove it. I always have it in mind anyways, just to make space here. Tesla, I'm not going to keep on that, guys. I'm going to keep Lucid in case it does anything, which is not looking too good at the moment. Fuel cell, it's a hit or miss with this one. Yeah, the daily looks interesting for possible opportunity here, especially towards the long side. I don't like it much for sure, but if we can break out of this, that could be nice. But it's not showing us anything right now in the pre-market. You know what? This would be a good one. We have our scanners up in the room. If this hits our scanners, or if a member sees something, let us know. DKS, Dix will keep on here. Plug, it's so. Mara, I'm gonna remove, guys. I mean, it's just I think we got better things to watch today. We'll keep Lucid on here. Could be very explosive again. The last couple of days, just trying to break out, comes back down, trying to break out, comes back down, and then it's just kind of hanging out at this 23. So it's having a real tough time to get in a decent daily candle here. Might be due for something, but I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit short bias on this thing, right? Just look at the way this thing has been pushing down here. Hasn't been able to get a hold of a green candle. The ones that are green are barely green after a nice drop here. So I don't know. This looks good for 22. I'm going to try not to be too biased on it, but I will be looking out for that for sure. And here is CCL, another travel company you can keep a close eye on as well. And then we have our two insanely active stocks on here, USWS. And then we have we have Indo, which again just in the last couple of minutes have gone from $62 to 78, right? So just kind of show you how much this can move. You do not need a whole lot of shares on this, guys. You could take a couple of shares and just make your money on the move. Very, very important. Always think about how much can I afford to pay to see if I'm right on this trade, right? So if you want to get in, let's say you was going to get in here at 76, how much are you willing to pay to find out if you're right? Calculate your stop loss and then calculate how much you need to risk. Very simple thing, but you'd be surprised how many of us, including myself, sometimes forget to do that. So make sure you stay on point on that. With that said, let's get to our levels, friends. Here we go. Oxy this morning, we are looking at high of the pre-market at the moment, 57.63. We'll slam a level there. And then you're surrounded by the highs and lows of the last two trading days. The low of the pre-market slightly lower than the previous day close at 54.74. I think that's all you need to add on Oxy. You're looking pretty good there. Here's BBBY, guys. Just insane yesterday, right? From 16 to 30. Then market open, it just gives it all right back down to 19. I think today could be interesting. Our lower pre-market at 20. We do have shares for short on this one as well, so we can play it in both directions this morning. Shouldn't it be on short selling restriction or right? Or is that calculated different because it gapped up?
No, if it gaps up, it doesn't typically go into.
Yeah, right. Even if it's sold off, yeah. All right, so it wouldn't be on that. That makes sense. 22.50 high of the pre-market, and then towards the bottom, you have the highs and lows from the last two trading days, which are doing a good job down here around 17.16, where the stock was hanging out at. We need something in here in case we do decide to drop around 18.18. Looks to be decent. Couple of days opening, closing right around that area, so we will keep that there. Here is Billy. Let's see how Billy's up to. I think Billy's more of a possible. I think this can get going, but it is not looking as explosive at the moment. I know we need to give it room to the market open, but I think this is more of a possible. We'll bring this down, and then we'll see what else we can move up in a second. Here's Baba, guys. Baba, decent volume, 680. We've seen better, but that's okay for now. They have news of an EV coming out, if I was correct, Peter, there. So we'll see where that goes. 101.32 high of the pre-market, and then we're just kind of have all these levels towards the top here. I like this level around, what is this, 99 maybe, 90, 98.56 towards the bottom. We'll see how this goes. Again, they got a positive catalyst today. I just don't know if that's going to be enough to hold them up here. We'll see. AMD this morning, very, very active, guys. 1.1 million shares traded. I love their daily here. They've just been getting slammed the last couple of days, as many stocks have. So nothing new there. 99.42 is the lowest we've been in some time. Well, at least this year. And then actually, no, in some time, because if you look here, September, October, we held that level as well, and then we went on this incredibly insane run. But yeah, we held that 99.42, so it'll be interesting. We're getting back to that area there. Interesting what AMD is going to do. Low of the pre-market right now is at 104.40. We'll slam a level there as well. So actually, it's a little bit lower. It must be down here somewhere. There we go. Right over here. Excellent. Here is American Airlines, guys. Travel companies, tickers are definitely in play. They're just not doing well with everything going on. 13.49, high of the pre-market. Low of the pre-market, you're looking at 12.60. So we'll slam a level on both of those there. Towards the top, guys, plenty. And we haven't been down here probably since pandemic levels. Are we looking at? I think so, man. We're pretty low. This is becoming, for those investors, a value situation here, man. $12 on American Airlines. It is not a bad price. Let's come down here, guys. We're looking at 12.02. And then over here, we're looking at, what is this? 11. This is a better level, actually, 11.24. So, man, we are really low on American Airlines. Definitely like that for sure. For other reasons, high of the pre-market at the moment, we're set 13.49. We're looking good on American Airlines. Very, very active, guys. We're going on 2 million shares shortly on American Airlines. It is on short selling restriction, and we do have shares for sure with IB. Okay, Apple, DKS, Plug, Lucid, and CCL are all okay. I'm going to keep my list the way it is for right now. Peter, anything on your end that has popped up that you are interested in?
No, well, other than people keep throwing out new tickers and they're all sort of moving the same way. So we've got all these oil companies, right? USO, USEG, HUSA, the USWS. So I know everybody's excited about them. That seems to be where all the money and the action is right now in the market. Again, I'm pretty skeptical just because be careful. As much as these things are jumping up 50, 60, 100%, they can move down just as quickly. So, again, great opportunity, but with it comes the risk.
Yeah. And also keep in mind the price action, how different it can be on those stocks, right? Those tickers, they're not the same as like when you trade an Apple or an AMD. The price action is a little bit funky, and sometimes that is enough to not make me want to watch those. Again, I was in Indo yesterday, as I mentioned to you guys, and it was just so weird, even with very small shares. It was just so weird to be in this ticker that's moving like this, just kind of candles are just appearing out of left field. I'm like, this is horrible, right? So just keep in mind that, you don't get that with regular or tickers as much. Guys, over on YouTube, we're sitting at 152 likes. Thank you so much for that. If you can get us to 250, we really appreciate it. That is our sweet spot there. Thank you for the support for those that already have done that. All right, let's look at our moderators lineup. Let's bring this over. I'm going to resize this over here and see what we have going on. See what our moderators are looking at this morning. Let's take a look. Here is, well, Peter, you're reporting, as you mentioned, you're seeing a lack of IPOs and SPACs with good reason. It makes perfect sense. Your list this morning, I'll let you run through it.
So some of the old standbys, I guess, in AMD, but also be watching DKS just because it had earnings, and then AAL. Now, the airline stocks are on short sale restrictions, so be aware of that, but I am thinking of American Airlines to the short side. My secondary list is Apple, which I always keep an eye on, Baba, like we talked about, and then Lucid. I just have a note there, of course, like everybody, I can't help but putting an eye to the oil stocks. It's unlikely I'll trade them, but, you watch them for fun.
Yep, absolutely. Let's take a look here. We have AIM potential shorts today. American Airlines, Trey Smart, Dima, Oxy, Baba, BBBY, and Apple. Tiffany, Oxy, American Airlines, secondary list, Apple and Tesla. Susan is looking at Oxy, Baba, AMD, and the secondary list, Tesla and Lucid this morning. Megan is looking at BBY for a continuation today. Again, that's definitely in play on my list as well. mRNA, Dix, and GM this morning. Thor, SPY, overall market, Oxy, DKS, and the scanners. Okay, scanners there. All right, Jared, looking at some of the nickel tickers as well as JJN for reference, energy stocks, and his favorite SLB and Oxy, low flow, HUSA. And I see HUSA, a lot of you guys are throwing that out. We'll look at that next, at HUSA, in just a second. Here's Brian's list. He'll be live with Thor, or if Andrew can get on, if he has connection, he'll be on with Andrew. BBBY, IMPP, HUSA there, and Oxy on his list as well. So there you have it, guys. Again, very interesting times at the moment with the way this market has been trading. Here is HUSA right now. Just, man, look at this, going just taking off, just to the moon here, right? From 1150 here, 1250 the run all the way to 13. This thing is up 41%. I'm sorry, guys. I know we sound very repetitive and we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, but we cannot stress enough how important it is to have risk management, right? You want to be in this for the long term. You have to have amazing risk management.
And there was a good, and that leads to a point. There's a good question that Artoli was asking me in the chat. He said, "So why would you be avoiding the oil stocks?" And the honest answer is generally they move well, but I don't have a strategy for that. So being that I don't have a trade book strategy, and I know my trade book strategies work, that usually has me sitting on the sidelines. And it was very frustrating for me, I have to say, at first. And at first, by the way, I mean the first couple of years of trading, to watch these things go to the moon and say, oh my God, I could be along for the ride. But every time I tried, I would do it wrong, right? I would either hold it too long or I would misread the price action because I hadn't developed a strategy against it. So I trade the things that I know works because it works for me day in and day out. As Carlos said, I'm doing this for the long term. So yes, I'm willing to miss those big moves so that I don't suffer the psychological pain, right, and the challenges of trading those things, as well as the potential downturn. So yeah, you could win at them. And hey, maybe I should be developing a strategy, but the fact is I don't currently. Therefore, I just watch them for interest and I trade what works because that's what makes my bank account grow.
There you go. That's the most important thing, guys. So again, very careful, guys. 9:15, 9:16 Eastern time. So we are ready to get into our chat room and get into some more preparation with Brian and Andrew, and then we'll go live at 9:30 when the market bell rings there. Guys, over on YouTube, take care. Again, trade safe out there, especially in these conditions. Do not chase things. Things are moving. You know, if you don't have a strategy like Peter mentioned, don't chase them. You can end up in you can get lucky, but in the long run, you're going to pay big time and it's not going to work out. We just know that from trying it ourselves. So take care over there, trade safe, and we will see you guys tonight. Is the webinar we have. Who do we have tonight? Mike. We have Mike tonight.
Is on tonight.
So at 8 p.m. So definitely do not miss him there, guys. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Trade safe.